The screen flickers. A single street lamp buzzes overhead, casting a cone of sickly yellow light onto cracked asphalt. Rain needles down, each drop a tiny drumbeat on the metal dumpster behind them. She clutches the child closer, the toddler's breath fogging the collar of her soaked hoodie. Her lips barely move, but the microphone catches every syllable. We have nowhere to go, the words hang, fragile as frost, then shatter when a shadow detaches from the darkness. A man steps into the light, boots splashing. His voice is low, steady, almost amused. You do now, smash cut to black. White text slams on screen, hit like if this moment just punched your heart. Subscribe, we're only getting started. My name is Mara, and that night I learned how loud silence can be. The city had been roaring all day, sirens, horns, the wet slap of tires on puddles, but inside my skull it was a vacuum. Eli, 2 years old, hadn't cried in an hour. That scared me more than the eviction notice taped to the apartment door that morning. I'd carried him down 4 flights, past neighbors who wouldn't meet my eyes, past the landlord's new lock already gleaming on 4B. The shelter downtown had a waitlist longer than my rap sheet of odd jobs. So we walked. Mile after soaked mile until the rain thinned to mist and my legs forgot how to stop. I didn't see the man until he spoke. He wore a navy peacoat 2 sizes too big, collar turned up like a turtle shell. His beard was patchy, the kind that grows when you stop caring about mirrors, but his eyes, gray, sharp, alive, locked on Eli's face first, then mine. Bus stations closed, he said, reading my mind. Shelters full, I know a place. He didn't wait for permission, he simply pivoted and walked, expecting us to follow. Something in the set of his shoulders said arguing would waste breath we didn't have. We trailed him through alleys that smelled of piss and fryer grease, past murals half peeled by weather until brick gave way to chain link. A warehouse loomed, windows painted black. He produced a key the size of a subway token and shouldered the door. Inside, darkness, then the click of a breaker. Fluorescent tubes stuttered awake, revealing a cavernous room stacked with pallets of canned goods, blankets still in plastic, rows of cots like an army barracks for the invisible. A hand-painted sign above the far door read, "Second draft, no one gets erased." He finally turned, "Name S. Jonah." He offered a hand calloused enough to sand wood. "I run this unofficially." His gaze flicked to Eli, who had begun to shiver in earnest. "Kid needs dry clothes, you need coffee that isn't gas station lies, come on." I hesitated. Every true crime podcast I'd ever binged screamed stranger danger. But Eli's teeth were chattering a rhythm against my collarbone, and the alternative was another bench under the overpass. I stepped inside. The door clanged shut behind us like a period at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished writing. Jonah moved with efficiency that felt rehearsed. He lifted Eli from my arms as gently as if the boy were made of blown glass, peeled off the wet hoodie and wrapped him in a fleece blanket the color of sunrise. A woman appeared, short, graying braid, apron that read "Kiss the cook or starve," carrying a mug steaming with something that smelled like childhood. "Decaf hot chocolate," she announced. "Marshmallows mandatory." Eli's eyes, huge and bloodshot, tracked the mug like it was the last lifeboat. He took a sip, sighed, and for the first time in 72 hours smiled. Jonah watched the exchange, something unreadable crossing his face. "Laundry S through there," he told me. "Washers industrial, eats quarters but spits out miracles. I'll hold the fort." I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Who funds this? Why me? What's the catch? But my tongue felt thick, my legs suddenly borrowed. I nodded and shuffled toward the humming machines. While my jeans tumbled, I studied the common area through the porthole window. Jonah sat cross-legged on the floor, building a tower of canned beans for Eli, who knocked it down with gleeful shrieks. Other residents drifted in, a teenage boy with a black eye and a backpack older than he was, an elderly man clutching a violin case like a baby, a woman my mother's age humming in Spanish as she folded tiny onesies. No one asked questions. No one filled out forms. They simply existed, warm and dry, inside walls that didn't judge. When I returned, hair dripping but clean, Jonah handed me a bowl of chili thick enough to stand a spoon in. "Eat," he ordered. "Stories can wait till the stomach's not filing for divorce." I obeyed. The first bite burned my tongue and thawed something behind my ribs. Eli had fallen asleep against Jonah's thigh, thumb in mouth, lashes fanned across cheeks still round with baby fat. The sight lodged in my throat worse than the spice. Night settled. Cots were assigned by the braid lady, Miss Alma, apparently. Mine was third from the heater, Eli's a crib scavenged from who knows where. Jonah lingered by the door, keys jangling. "Lights out in 20, he said softly. "You safe here, Mara, promise." Then he was gone, swallowed by the corridor that smelled faintly of sawdust and possibility. Sleep came in fragments. I dreamed of locks changing, of Eli's weight growing heavier until I sank through sidewalk grates. I woke to the hush of breathing strangers and the red glow of an exit sign. For a moment I forgot where I was. Then Eli stirred, murmured "Mama," and the world righted itself. Morning revealed the warehouse's true scale. Skylights poured buttery light onto a kitchen the size of a school cafeteria. Volunteers, some in orange vests, others in pajama pants, flipped pancakes, poured juice, laughed too loud for 7 a.m. Jonah stood at the stove, apron tied crooked, spatula in one hand, phone in the other. "Fundraising call," he mouthed when he saw me. Rich lady thinks guilt is a deductible. He rolled his eyes, but the grin underneath was boyish. Breakfast became a blur of names. Diego the teen who fixed iPhones with a paperclip, Mr. Park who tuned his violin to the hum of the refrigerator, Luz who taught Eli to say gracias by bribing him with animal crackers. I ate 3 pancakes and still felt hollow. Jonah noticed, of course he did. After the dishes, he crooked a finger. Walk with me. We climbed metal stairs to a mezzanine office overlooking the floor. File cabinets sagged under manila folders labeled with Sharpie, success stories, ALMOSTS gone too soon. A whiteboard tracked donations in multicolored marker. Jonah leaned against a desk scarred by coffee rings. You're wondering how this place stays afloat. Top 5 questions, yeah. He laughed, a sound like gravel under tires. Short version, I used to have money. Long version, I used it wrong. He spun a photo frame toward me, a younger Jonah in a tux, arm around a woman whose smile could power cities. Claire, we built apps, sold dreams, forgot people. She died in a car crash coming home from a gala. I was supposed to pick her up, was too busy closing a deal. His voice didn't waver, but his knuckles went white on the frame. Insurance payout was obscene. I bought this building the day after the funeral. Figured if I couldn't save her, maybe I could save someone else. The confession hung between us, heavier than the humid air. I thought of my own failures, the community college classes I dropped when rent spiked, the boyfriend who promised forever and left with my TV, the voicemail from mom I still hadn't returned because sorry felt too small. I'm not a project, I said finally. Didn't say you were, Jonah set the frame down gently. But everyone here's got a crack, light gets in through cracks, that's the rule. Downstairs, chaos had organized itself into purpose. Diego taught a coding class on scavenged laptops. Luz led a toddler dance party to reggaeton. Mr. Park's violin wept a melody that made the pancakes lady cry into the batter. I found myself assigned to inventory, counting cans, checking expiration dates, writing labels in block letters. The work was mindless, necessary, grounding. By noon my shoulders ached in a good way. Afternoon brought the first challenge. A city inspector arrived, clipboard gleaming like a guillotine. Zoning violation, he barked. This isn't licensed as residential. Jonah met him at the door, palms open. Give me 24 hours. The inspector's eyes flicked to the kids chasing bubbles in the corner. Something softened, but the clipboard stayed firm. Clocks ticking. Word spread like flu. Residents clustered, panic rising. Diego offered to hack the city database. Jonah shut that down fast. Luz suggested a prayer circle. Mr. Park simply began playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, slow and defiant. I stood frozen, useless. Then Eli tugged my hand. Mama hungry, simple, human. I marched to the kitchen, started slicing apples. If we were getting evicted, we'd do it on full stomachs. Jonah found me there, knife midair. We need a story, he said. Not pity, proof, he gestured at the residents. Their wins, your wins, something the city can't ignore. My laugh came out bitter. I'm a high school dropout with a rap sheet for bounce checks. Exactly, he tapped the counter. You're relatable, real, talk to the local news, I'll set it up. Before I could protest, he was dialing. The reporter arrived at dusk, perky, young, smelling of ambition. Her cameraman swept the room like he was filming a war zone. I wanted to hide, but Jonah nudged me forward. Mara's our spokesperson, he lied smoothly. The microphone felt like a branding iron. I stuttered through the first question. Then Eli waddled over, apple juice on his chin, and waved at the lens. Hi, the reporter melted, something in me unclenched. Words spilled, the eviction, the rain, the stranger who became a door. I talked about pancakes that tasted like forgiveness, about Diego teaching me to code hello world in 10 minutes, about Mr. Park's violin stitching the holes in my chest. I didn't cry, didn't have to. The truth was wet enough. The segment aired at 10. By 11, the warehouse phone wouldn't stop ringing. Donations poured in, grocery chains, church groups, a law firm offering pro bono zoning help. The inspector called at midnight, voice sheepish. Paperwork got misplaced, you've got 90 days. Jonah hung up, stared at the receiver, then whooped so loud Eli woke up laughing. We celebrated with root beer floats and a dance floor cleared of cots. Diego DJ'd from his cracked phone. Luz taught me merengue steps I had no business attempting. Jonah spun Miss Alma until her braid unraveled. I caught him watching me across the room, something cautious in his smile. Later, when the music slowed to a scratchy Louis Armstrong, he offered his hand. One dance for morale. His palm was warm, steady. We swayed more than danced, Eli asleep on a pile of coats nearby. You saved us, I murmured into his shoulder. Nah, his breath stirred my hair. You saved yourselves, I just left the door open. The next weeks blurred into routine. I enrolled in GED night classes, second draft had a shuttle. Diego became my study buddy, bribing me with memes. Luz watched Eli during tests, sending me selfies of them covered in flour from helping in the kitchen. Jonah and I developed a rhythm, inventory at dawn, coffee on the loading dock, debates about whether cereal was soup. He never pushed, never asked for more than I offered. But some nights when insomnia bit, I'd find him on the roof patching skylight leaks by headlamp. We'd talk about everything and nothing, Claire's laugh, my mother's meatloaf, the way stars looked smeared from city light. Challenge 2 arrived disguised as progress. A developer offered Jonah triple the building's worth to turn it into lofts with exposed brick and $4,000 rents. The board, 3 volunteers who'd never met in person, voted to accept. Jonah came to me white-faced. They're right, money could fund 10 smaller shelters. His voice cracked on the last word. I felt the floor tilt. This isn't just a building, Jonah, it's home. The word stuck. He knew. We called an emergency town hall. Residents packed the common room, folding chairs, scraping. Diego projected spreadsheets showing we could match the offer with community crowdfunding if we had 6 months. Mr. Park offered benefit concerts. Luz proposed a viral cookbook, recipes from every country represented under our roof. I stood, heart hammering. We fight together. The campaign launched at midnight. #second draft stays. Videos of Eli stirring pancake batter, Mr. Park playing on the subway, me acing my first GED practice test. Shares snowballed. A celebrity chef retweeted the cookbook. A tech billionaire matched donations dollar for dollar. On day 178, we hit the goal. Jonah signed the counteroffer with hands that shook. The developer backed out, muttering about bad press. We popped champagne, non-alcoholic, because kids. Spring arrived sideways through a broken window we never fixed because the breeze smelled like lilacs. Eli turned 3 under a balloon arch Miss Alma crocheted from plastic bags. I passed my GED with a score high enough for community college scholarships. Jonah framed the certificate beside Claire's photo. She'd like you, he said simply. But stories don't end, they pivot. One Tuesday, a social worker arrived with paperwork. Eli's father, gone since before the first ultrasound, had surfaced, sober, petitioning for custody. The room spun. I'd built a life on the assumption of a loan. Now biology wanted a vote. Jonah found me on the roof, knees to chest. He's got rights, I whispered. I can't afford a lawyer. We can, he sat beside me close enough that our shoulders touched. But rights aren't the same as readiness. Let's meet him together. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and lemon pledge. Travis looked older than his mugshot, eyes red-rimmed but clear. He brought a teddy bear and a story, rehab, a job at a car wash, a studio apartment with a crib still in the box. I don't want to take him from you, he said, voice rough. I want to learn how to be his dad, with supervision, with you. I expected rage, instead I felt tired. Relieved, terrified, Jonah squeezed my hand under the table. We negotiated weekends to start therapy for all 3 of us, second draft as neutral ground. Travis signed. Eli, oblivious, fed the teddy bear French fries. Summer baked the city. College acceptance letters arrived, criminal justice because someone had to fix the system that almost erased us. Jonah drove me to orientation in a van that smelled of crayons and hope. On the way back, he pulled over by the river. Sun set the water on fire. Mara, he said, I've been waiting for the right moment. There isn't one. So he produced a key, small and silver. Top floors getting renovated. Studio apartment for you and Eli. No rent till you're on your feet. After that, whatever you can pay feeds the next family. I stared at the key like it might bite. This feels like charity. It's investment in the woman who taught me no man left behind applies to feelings too. He took a breath. I love you, not the savior kind, the want to argue about dishes and wake up to your terrible singing kind. The laugh that escaped me was half sob. I kissed him there on the riverbank, tasting sunlight and possibility. Eli cheered from his car seat, thinking it was a game. Fall painted the warehouse gold. We opened a second location, smaller, specialized for teens aging out of foster care. Diego became site manager, swagger intact. Luz published the cookbook. It hit bestseller lists in the niche category of meals that saved my soul. Mr. Park played Carnegie Hall, one night only, all proceeds to expansion. On move-in day to the studio, I found a note taped to the fridge in Jonah's handwriting. You always had somewhere to go, you just needed coordinates. Love, Jay. The apartment overlooked the original common room. Some nights I watched residents below, new faces, same hope, and felt the circle complete. Eli started preschool, came home reciting the alphabet in 3 languages. I aced midterms. Jonah proposed on the roof under a supermoon, ring fashioned from a spoon we de-bent during a particularly bad chili burn. I said yes before he finished the question. Years later, when second draft spanned 3 states and a documentary crew followed our story, they asked what the turning point was. I could have said the news segment, the crowdfunding, the custody win. But the truth was smaller, warmer. It was the moment a stranger in a too-big coat looked at my son and saw a future worth opening a door for. The screen fades in on that same street lamp years later, rain again but softer. A young woman huddles with a baby, same despair in her eyes. The warehouse door opens. A teenage Eli, tall, lanky kind, steps out, hoodie emblazoned with the second draft logo. He smiles, offers a hand. You do now. Text slams on screen, this isn't the end. ITS the blueprint. If this story moved you, like to keep the algorithm kind. Subscribe, new chapters drop every week. Comment your own somewhere to go moment below. We read everyone. Bell icon, smash it, because no one gets erased on our watch.